Hello, listeners. This is Dawn Pruszkowski. I'm so glad you're enjoying our love story. Because we're often asked about Wiesiek's side of the story, we decided to have Tom sit down with V and ask him several questions that were sent in by our listeners. In these 2 bonus episodes, you'll find out more about Wiesiek, and you'll also find out how he found love unexpected on that 2-week tour. Enjoy.
Welcome back to Love Unexpected. I'm your host, Tom Howie. In our last episode, we got to know the other side of this remarkable love story. We met Wiesiek Pruszkowski. I messed it up again. Please pronounce your name and introduce yourself to the audience.
Wiesiek Pruszkowski.
Oh my gosh, there's no way I could say that. But we affectionately call him Willy or V. In the last episode, you kind of found out how that came about. But in this episode, we actually want to hear your perspective on some questions from our listeners, because they have heard Dawn's entire story, but there's another side to this as well. So yes. I'm going to start with the first one, if I may.
Okay.
And it's probably the most important. When did you actually first notice that you had become attracted to Dawn?
So I noticed her on the first day when we came from the airport to our meeting place in the center of Warsaw. And she and her friend Trish were standing outside the church building, wearing sunglasses and looking pretty cool.
Typical Americans.
And both of us, actually, Klekot and I, thought that they were attractive ladies. Klekot actually liked Trish, and I thought Dawn was cute. And I approached them and said, "Are you girls dancers?" And that's how we struck first conversation.
So was that a pickup line? Are you two dancers or?
No, it's just I was curious. I knew about 20 other people and nobody sparked my interest.
Yeah. So another one here. Dawn says she felt a jolt go through her hand when she touched you that first night when you brought the girls blankets. Did you feel something as well?
No, I didn't feel the jolt. I was trying to show some care and kindness, and I get her some blankets, and I thought they will benefit from it, and it was nice to go and see her again.
Well, we also are reminiscent of the dramatic night when the drunk electrician basically held the girls in the cabin hostage. One of Dawn's concerns is that you didn't get there very quickly. She thought you were kind of dragging your feet there. I need to know what was your take on that event?
Well, so as I see now from the podcast, the optics were bad. But I was awakened from my first deep sleep, and my first thought was it's probably some misunderstanding, language barrier. And I need to put my pants on and go find out what's going on and talk to the men. And that was my thought. I didn't see it as such a drastic situation as it was described, and how the participants, how the ladies felt there at the cabin. They were, fearful and threatened. So
you really had no idea that Dawn actually got mad at you?
No, at first I didn't, but by the end of the night I found it out. Yeah, and next morning she wasn't happy either. So I think I tried to smooth it, somehow apologize and try to explain myself. I don't exactly remember with what words and what was said, but I think I try to make it good, to remain on good terms with the lady.
So in Kyiv, what prompted you to write Dawn the "I like you" note and then put it in the pocket of the jacket that you let her wear?
Well, why not? I liked her, and it was truth. I thought, well, I had some rubles. I write the note, put it in my pocket. If she finds it, then get the message, that's fine. If she doesn't, that's okay too. It was just how I felt at the moment. I thought, okay, it's a maybe creative or a different way of expressing some interest.
So going back to the United States with Dawn before she ever got on the tour, she had a lot of things to live up to. She had a prophecy, she had some signposts, she had what she describes here, being here, as an audible voice to tell her that she's been waiting for you, and she was asked about not being married yet. When did you know that Dawn was the woman for you?
I think during those 2 weeks, probably towards the end of the first week, there was, it's hard to describe. I had no audible voice. I had no dream. Nobody told me that. It was just like I felt inside that she was right for me, that she was the blessing to come to me, somebody that I was waiting for 3 years. And I had this deep peace in my heart, in my head. You know, sometimes you have to make decision, and you torn, and you cannot sleep, and you think, and you get nervous, anxious about. There was nothing anxious. There was nothing nervous about this relationship. I had this deep peace in my heart, and I had no doubts. I had no questions. So that's why I was so forward, and I thought, my God, it's only 2 weeks.
Well, and I mean, obviously, that's a big part of the whole story. It's only 2 weeks, so you had to move fast. Obviously, I'm joking when I say that, but you did suddenly start holding her hand in Kiev. Do you remember what led to the boldness of that? Was it do or die time, or what?
Kind of. I like touch, like physical touch, very much so. So started develop feelings for her, and I thought that she was somewhat responsive to it at that point. So I thought, well, let's try it. She always can take it back, right?
Well, and a listener actually wrote this in Berdichev. You took her away from everybody. You told her you loved her, and you kissed her. I mean, is this a moment where you're just kind of caught up in the moment and all that's going on, or was there more to it? Obviously, with the urgency of the tour coming to an end.
I would say both.
Okay, yeah.
It was sunset, nice day. The events of the day were nice, and it felt like there might be nice finish to the day. And we were by ourselves. Some other people went to look some ruins or some old building. I don't know what it was, and we went away. And so it wasn't just a spur of the moment. It was just expression what I felt, deeply felt, and moment was right. So I would say both.
How did you believe this relationship would work despite all the obstacles and the differences?
Obviously, I didn't think about the obstacles and differences at the moment, and I knew that all things can be worked out, and I didn't know at the moment how and how future would look like. I didn't make any plans. I was just there for those 2 weeks to be a musician and to pursue that relationship that I felt was very right, and I felt deeply about.
That's fantastic. So in our first meeting, you talked about when you went to the hospital, you'd taken your daughter to get checked up, or I forgot what that was, Sara, and then that's when they found that you were actually very sick. All this whirlwind romance with this beautiful woman that's from America, how's this going to affect your relationship with your daughter?
Well, I was upfront with it, and I felt that Sara and I were a package. So whatever was going to happen in my life, she's going to be a part of it. And she will be a part of any relationship, part of any experience, anything that will go forward. We were very, very close. And as I said, we were for 3 years, just two of us, and very dependent on each other, because when I was going through my cancer, she was my caregiver to some extent at home when I was so sick.
Wow.
She was my comforter, and even though she was only 6 years old.
Were you at all excited or in trepidation of the two of them meeting? I mean, did you have any thought about how that would go?
I was actually very excited for Sarah to meet Don, and I didn't have any worries or any fears. She was a beautiful girl, well behaved, and just lovely kid.
That's fantastic. So when they did finally meet, I'm certain that Sarah just broke out into the most beautiful English. Is that the way that worked? No, I mean, you've got two people that neither one speak each other's language. How did that work?
So funny thing, she was going for almost a year now to this American school. she could speak for just a few English words at the time, so she didn't understand much. She couldn't say much, but from what I saw, she really liked Dawn, and she wanted to stay close and cuddle and hug her, and yeah.
So going back to Dawn's perspective on the story, she was all excited. She was actually even looking at coming to teach English there in Warsaw and a couple of things. And then all of a sudden, reality hit. And wait, I can't do this. I can't move to Poland. There's no way this happens. Since she decided she couldn't come to Poland, what prompted you to say, well, wait a minute, we'll just come to you? That's a big decision with your daughter.
Yes, it is, and I thought, well, it's too late to put now big obstacles. You know, we have to work it out. It has to work out somehow, because we got thus far, and I didn't think lightly of that relationship. I thought about, my future life, and I thought things would have to work out. I didn't know yet how, but I was hopeful, I was open, and didn't see it as a real obstacle.
Okay, so there's that question. And then one, you've now got to tell your daughter that this woman that she met for just a little while, you're going to marry her and you both are going to drop everything and move to America. So how did that conversation go?
Conversation went well. We picked her up on I think, one before last day of the tour from school, and we took her with us, and she spent a few hours with us. She was at the night concert and spent the night where we were there at the hotel. And I think she found out after an engagement was announced. Look, she was just 7 years old. She didn't have deep comprehension what was going on, what her relationship's about, and she was trusting me with everything, and she knew that whatever decision I make was going to be good for both of us. So I had that on my side.
That's good. So Dawn leaves. She goes back to the States. What all were you doing? Because I know she was waiting for phone calls, and I know you had to travel across town to go to a calling station. But what all preparations were you making at this time?
Yeah, it was emotional time. I was tired after the tour, and excited about the relationship, and distraught about difficulties with communication, as due to poor infrastructure in Poland. We didn't have phones in our apartments, in our houses. Very few people had phones, so I had to go to post office or use some phone booth that was working and have a pocket full of change to make a phone call. The time difference also wasn't helping, because she wasn't there when I was able to call, so I was missing her several times and talked to her landlord lady. So it was kind of whirlwind.
Wow. So I love this question. This comes directly from a listener. How did this change your life? And how did you tell your family and friends about meeting a woman from America in a 2-week trip and getting engaged?
My friends were very excited, actually.
That's fantastic. Wow.
Yes, they were very excited, very supportive, and they felt like that was kind of next reward after my recovery from the cancer, that my life's gonna be full again and happy, and I found love, and I had very good relationship with my parents, and they trusted me that was right thing for me, they were sad that I will be leaving country, but at the same time, they were very supportive and excited for me.
So after Dawn leaves and there's communication issues, from your perspective, everything's moving ahead quite well.
Yes.
Sarah's on board. Everything seems to be on board except for one thing, the U.S. State Department. That seems to be a little bit of an obstacle. Explain that a little bit.
Yes, so we applied for visitor's visa. I was going to go meet her parents, see where she was living, and maybe make some wedding arrangements and talk about the future. And yes, State Department decided to turn down my request for visa, and that was crushing and very painful, and didn't know what to do at this point.
So that's a good question. What did you do at this point?
Well, I talked to Dawn, and they advised me that I need to apply for a K1 visa, which is fiancé visa. In reality, it is a migration visa, which you have to go through all medical, criminal background checks and screening, and as State Department said, it takes 6 to 12 months to get approved for it. And I thought that's gonna be very difficult and almost, almost impossible at this point. It's kind of like put a damper on my excitement and on my plans.
That's 25 times longer than your relationship has lasted at this point. So that does seem like a little bit of a difficulty. To all of our listeners, I really hope you've enjoyed our discussion with Willy. This has been the different perspective, the different side of this whirlwind romance. And we definitely want to talk with you later as the seasons progress in Love Unexpected. Are you willing to come back?
Absolutely.
Wonderful. Well, that wraps up this season of Love Unexpected. Be sure to click the subscribe and notification buttons for this podcast so you won't miss a single episode when Season 3 comes out later this year. To see photos and video clips that go along with this story, go to our website, loveunexpected.us. You can find the link in our episode guide. We would love to hear from you, so email your comments and questions at our website. If you enjoyed the show, we would love for you to share our podcast with your family and friends. You can listen to Love Unexpected on any of your favorite podcast platforms. Be sure to hit the subscribe and notification buttons so that you don't miss a single episode of our show. You can help us by leaving a rating as well as a comment or review. We look forward to connecting with you on social media. Our username @LoveUnexpectedPodcast on both Instagram and Facebook. Our producer and creator of original music for the show is Joe E.P. Music. Our host, Tom Howey. Our writer is Dawn Pruszkowski. Our media manager is Jane Pruszkowski.